You're going to have to hit.
We're calling the meeting to order.
That actually goes to Susan Brown.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, before we start, I'm asking unanimous consent from the board to appoint Susan as temporary board chair for this meeting due to my remote location. I need unanimous consent from the board. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, the meeting's yours, Susan.
Thank you. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion to approve the amended agenda. We had to add a bill and the milk cooperative piece.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda with the additional bill and the cooperative agreement.
I have a first from trustee Hall. Can I get a second?
Second it.
I have a second from trustee Reinbold.
Hit the vote.
You have to, yeah.
Can I get a vote on this? All the yays?
Yay.
Yay.
This passes. We're going to move on to the comments from the audience. We have quite a few of them tonight. Please understand we need to keep it to a minimum of 2 minutes. No derogatory comments.
Maximum.
I'm sorry, maximum. No derogatory comments, no name calling, and let's hear what people have to say in a nice civil manner. First one up is going to be Aline Tayton. Did I say that correct?
All right. There's been a lot of outrage as evidenced by this recall. The recall organization keeps saying that it's really all about the kids. So if it's really all about the kids, where is the outrage at the poor performance year after year of the school district? Where is the outrage over the lowest graduation rates and the lowest ISAT scores in the region? Where's the outrage when under prior chairman, Sandra Brower, Superintendent Anselmo, it's not a derogatory.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, it has to be related to the actual
It
special
is.
meeting agenda.
It is. I'm going to talk about the high school. The high school was in the bottom 5% of the state, is in the bottom 5% of the state, and has been placed in Idaho's school accountability system for underperforming schools, starting in the 2022-23 school year, and will remain there for 3 years. And where is the outrage when the school district spends $1,500 more per student than Lake Pend Oreille, $2,500 per year more per student than Boundary County School District, and $4,000 more per student than the Idaho average? If it's really all about the kids, then everybody would be working together to address these problems and not focusing on a recall of the very people who are trying to address and fix these issues. I think that we need to look at the junior high decision in the context of these, very high cost per student for this school district and basically an out of control budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person up is Matt Nelson.
Just remind me, you have to trust the agenda. Hello, my name is Matt Nelson. I want to say that I'm thankful to see that the agenda item about the junior high is a non-action item tonight. I think it's a good idea to table any idea for any immediate action with the junior high at this time. The facility in of itself is functional. There's no reason to not use it and operate it as normal. Should something go wrong with a boiler or other plumbing or other electrical or whatever, just like this facility here, it would be dealt with at that time. We learned Monday night that by the end of the month, the district is to receive somewhere south of 300K to somewhere south of 500K possibly from the state for facilities. I think that money could be earmarked for the junior high repairs. Whether that would cover all of the repairs on the boiler or not, I don't know that. There have been studies done that the district has paid for that assess all of that, as well as other issues with the junior high, the high school, the elementary schools, all of the above. So let's take care of what needs taken care of first and foremost. Top priority first, obviously, move on down the list from there. My second wondering is about the new special ed director. If that is in fact a remote position, I would question her ability to be effective in that position if that is in fact remote. That's a rumor going around. Aside from that, is she Idaho State certified? How long would it take for her to be Idaho State certified? I don't personally know what all goes into that, but I do know that if I was a parent that had a special needs child, I'd be a bit concerned if in fact that's a remote position and she's not Idaho certified. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person up is Bill O'Neill.
Hearing mention of a boiler, I've heard recently that there is an idea to replace a boiler. I don't know how you're going about it, but if you replace a boiler in the junior high and you make it large enough to carry the load in very cold climate, when you reach the spring, it's going to be running very low, and that's going to damage the boiler skin. It'll start rusting from the condensate. You might think of replacing with 2 smaller units that in tandem will carry the full load. When a boiler goes down to low fires, they're extremely inefficient. And I would imagine if you're going to replace this boiler, it's going to have to be RGD, road grade diesel. That's tax-free only. You'll be paying every penny for that diesel that you would be paying for, except without the license or the tax. So that could be very expensive if fuel costs keep going way up. I don't know what else there is for it, but, and another thing, on these small boilers, the controls, there's several different kinds of controls you can get to them. There's the type that oscillate and control the temperatures finer. That's easier on the boiler because it never goes into a cool down situation. It'll save you money.
Thank you very much. Next up is Sandy Brower.
Sandy Brower for the record. I just want to say thank you to the board and Superintendent Durst for the dialogue that we were able to have on Monday, and the fact that I feel like you guys took it off the agenda for an action item. I appreciate that very much. I appreciate being heard and have an opportunity to be heard. I would also like to comment on public records. I put quite a few in. I'm sure Brandy's not happy about that. But I would like to request them to be fulfilled. And if there's any way I can help, I'm happy to come down to the district and take copies myself. And then I'm also concerned about the approval of the minutes still. I'm going to say it every meeting. I'm concerned with why the minutes aren't being approved so they can be put on the website. But again, thank you for Monday, appreciate it. And thank you for moving that agenda item.
Thank you. Next up is Haley Scott.
Hi, I'm Haley Scott for the record.
I wanted to talk about two things tonight. First, I read on the agenda last night that Beth Pettit was resigning from her position as a kindergarten teacher with us. And when I told my 6-year-old who just had her as a teacher, she broke down in tears. So sad that Mrs. Pettit is leaving, and she said, "What about this year's kindergartners?" So she was very concerned with her. So it just reminded me that our teachers need to be recognized. So I want to take a second just to tell all the teachers that are with us and who have been with us and can't do it any longer that we appreciate you and that we love you very, very much. And we're here to support those who stay, but we also love and appreciate those who have moved on to different things. My second thing that I want to talk about is the junior high. Monday's meeting was great. I know that everybody that's sitting at the table tonight had a chance to listen to at least part of that meeting, and we appreciate your attendance and your responses to us, Mr. Durst. We appreciate those as well. With that, in the limelight of that, or in the aftermath of that meeting, a couple of friends and I, one is going to talk more about this tonight, about some grant opportunities. And I want to stand up and just not nominate myself, but volunteer myself to be on a committee that pursues that, or can be on a grant writing committee, and I'm free of charge. So I'm more than happy to do that, and I know there's some other people who are happy to do that as well, if that is something that you guys pursue. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Jack Morales.
Jack M, PRC. For months now, we've heard claims and references about open board meetings and Idaho code violations, but still, we've never given the specific code or the policy number being referenced. Now, either because the board members are being told things or they're looking into suspicious business practices, or more specifically, because the audit is underway, the board needs to have some sort of a gag order in place. Is this needed to keep any suspicious bank accounts, disclosed monies, undisclosed monies, or any other financial inadequacies out of the ears, eyes of the public? I don't agree with any type of gag order. These are our public tax dollars being played with. I want transparency at every step. Stop trying to put walls up and placing wedges between the board activities and the public. Another comment heard was that the new board clerk is just like or similar to a court clerk, and the position requires the same respect. Was this statement meant for the employee or for the public? I'm a bit confused as to the meaning and reasoning behind this statement. Nothing in their employment agreement, and I say their, meaning previous or current board clerk position, mentions any similarities, correlations, or kind-of-likes to that of a court clerk. Is this the way we now implement new policy and procedures? We just say it and it's so? Or is this meant to be something a little bit more sinister? Are we now threatening new employees in public about now being in a secret club where their confidentiality expectation goes beyond that?
Jack, sorry, we got to keep it to what your comment was about the new employee.
This is about the employee, that they're being told that they have to be in a secret club now, and their confidentiality expectations goes beyond that of already understanding or the understood in reference to student records and files. To simply be quiet about inappropriate activities seen or heard in and around the office. Once again, placing walls and wedges between the school district, its employees, and the public.
Thank you. Next up is Marilyn. Is that Mosley?
Marilyn Mosley, for the record. On July 24th, I became a naturalized U.S. citizen. So for the first time, I will have a chance to vote. I have lived in the United States. I have lived in the United States for 30 years. I've raised my children here. They graduated from this high school. I was a volunteer, a substitute teacher at this campus and at the junior high. I've been to several board meetings and different meetings throughout the community, and I wanted to focus my message tonight to the board members and to all of us. How how exciting it is to be a part of this country and to have this chance to vote and to have our voices known and heard. But the most important thing that we need to remember is that we need to respect one another and listen and hear what each other are saying. I've heard a lot of loud voices and a lot of upset people. And I understand we get very upset, but you know, one thing that we can do is we can listen to each other and we can share our opinions and ideas, and great things can come out of all of us uniting together and coming together with great ideas. And so I look forward to hearing more of that as different ones speak tonight. One of the things I did want to address that is on the agenda is about the boiler system at the junior high. And one idea I did have, and I have not heard this mentioned, was there is a system called a mini split or a dual ductless system that can be installed that does not require any kind of duct work, and it would have thermostat controllers in the classrooms with one unit or several depending on the size of the building outside. And if the boiler system gets to the point of expense and repair to where it doesn't seem to be fixable,
I'm
at
sorry,
2
your time
minutes.
is up.
Okay.
But thank you so much and
I wanted to mention
congratulations.
that to the board to consider, but thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Maureen Patterson.
Almighty Father, we praise and honor you. Thank you for all the blessings you give us. Please shine your light of truth on this meeting. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Ken Elder, the former facilities director, stated that it's not if the boiler blows, but when the boiler blows. Monday at the 3Cs meeting, the question was, what would be your plan if the boiler blows? I did not hear a comprehensive answer that covered a new heating system throughout the whole building. What about the safety for the children? What about the liability for the school district? Is not this important? But all I heard was rudeness, disrespect, loud shouting, and arrogance. Where's the concern for the children and for the school district? The levy failed because there was no transparency or accountability, and the performance of the students was so low. Listen to our 2022 audit report. It appeared that many of the district's funds in the underlying general ledger accounts had not been properly analyzed and adjusted for quite some time. If balances this, it could be an indication they are not receiving accurate financial information throughout the fiscal year. Why is there not an outcry about this? Our high school is in a comprehensive support improvement underperforming program. We are in the bottom 5%. Why is there not an outcry about this? Solzhenitsyn, an outspoken critic of communism, said, "It's a universal law. Intolerance is the first sign of an inadequate education. An ill-educated person behaves with arrogant impatience, whereas truly profound education breeds humility." Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Devin Fleck.
Hello, Devin Fleck for the record. I had 3 questions for the board tonight. I sent all of you, including you, Brandon Durst, the email asking if you would give me permission to move forward with the pursuit of grants for the junior high. I know that you had mentioned a few times you're actually open to that idea. We just don't have anybody on the staff that could do so, and you're looking into maybe staffing that position. I would be happy to do that free of charge for the district. I know there are other members, as Haley commented, that would be happy to do that as well, at no charge, and there's no additional, expenditure to our budget, which is already limited. We've looked into a few already that I listed within the body of the email. If you haven't read it, I really press that you please do so, and let me know yay or nay, whether that's tonight. If it can't be tonight, an ETA kind of on the timing of that, because I would like to get started if I am given approval to do so. And then if I cannot do so, if you could just give me a comprehensive list of like what you feel might be a problem for that, so that I maybe can address that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Joni Francisco.
It's kind of a weird position with the microphone, huh? You can't like see either way. So I guess I'll talk to the microphone. I just want to come up here. You know, there's some things in life that is really hard to understand. One, like jumping out of an airplane, right? You probably can't know that. Sorry. You probably can't understand that unless you actually do it. I would say that it's the same as being a parent. If you haven't been a parent, you probably cannot fully understand what it is to be a parent. If you haven't been the parent of a 12-year-old girl, you probably also can't understand that, especially if you were not a 12-year-old girl yourself. So in that being said, I just implore that the board maybe on this one topic does take the parents' input maybe higher than people, especially out of our district, to what we do moving forward for this school year especially. These are our kids. These are our kids that also some people in the community are referring to as being that are part of a cesspool of the junior high and high school. These are our kids. It hurts our heart. They're our kids. And I'm not going to disagree. There needs to be change at the junior high. I've worked here. I know. I understand. And I am a huge proponent of a free and appropriate education for all, not just for some people to show up and be. That junior high needs work. It needs ADA compliancy. Maybe there's talk of a new school. Maybe there's talk of some other things being happened, but it doesn't have to happen this minute. It can have time to be a well thought out plan that doesn't waste any more of the taxpayer money, but also keeps everybody safe. And a sustainable plan. I ask everybody, open your hearts, love on our students. They need it. That's the foundation for confidence as an adult, is that love and that support. And I understand the first priority for a lot of people is running this school like a business, but I implore that we keep the humanity for our kids and our community and everybody involved in that. And it is about the money. I get it. I understand financial responsibility, but we also are humans, and we have to keep that in our community and in our students and in that. So just, do you have more time? I guess it's really, I just want to say that we're not pumping out
Sorry,
an assembly
that's
line.
the time.
Yeah,
Thank
it's not
you.
an assembly line. There are students.
Next up is John Dupree.
John Dupree for the record, and I have to tell you, I'm happy to be a resident of Bonner County. Now, as you could tell, I'm a Navy brat. I was able to travel all over the world and see all kinds of things. I happened to be born in California, thanks to the Navy. Don't hold it against me. But here's the thing. I grew up there, and it was a nice place when I was a kid, and it's deteriorated to garbage. Out of all the places in the world to move, I chose to move and retire here because I love the place, the people were friendly, and this is America. And I'm happy to live in America. Now, please, that's my 2 minutes. Here's the thing, though. We have democracy at work right here. We have different people with different ideas. This group of people right here were elected by the citizens of the county because they wanted change. What was going on before was not satisfactory, and they elected this board. And they also rejected the levy because they didn't like what was going on. Change is the constant of the universe. Whether we like it or not, change will occur. Now, the point is, what kind of change, what solutions? You know, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Are we insane by doing what we've been doing before? Well, maybe. But here's the thing. I like Ronald Reagan. He says, trust but verify. And so I've been hearing lots of stuff, and I had a friend that went to the government, Idaho government site, and gathered up information out of a report card of high schools in North Idaho. It's not political, it's not ideological, these are the numbers of what is going on in high schools in North Idaho. And my friends, it's embarrassing to see Priest River School is at the bottom of the list. Now, if you didn't get one of these, please grab one. We brought it for you to
Sorry,
peruse.
John. Sorry, time is up.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I apologize. Thank you. Next up is Kathy Nash.
Kathy Nash for the record. I want to address the levy funds and the revenue and expenditure detail report from July 2018 to June 2023. I mentioned at the budget hearing this last June, the money budgeted for the levy items are not being spent.
Excuse me, Kathy. I'm sorry. It has to be something that's on a special agenda.
It has to do with the boiler and all of the junior high and all that. I mean, it's woven in there.
Sorry.
Okay. If anyone wants to get with me after this meeting, I can show you the levy portion of those reports to prove what I said was accurate. The things found in these reports are alarming. Expenses being put in revenue accounts, revenues being added to expense accounts, checks made out to West Bonner County Schools, which are then deposited into other checking accounts showing up as revenue instead of transfers. Checks from those alternate checking accounts not being approved by the board, nor has the current board ever been made known the accounts even existed. Expenses for travel and hotels being put into accounts like supplies and materials. Why? Money coming out of the payroll module made out to WSBSD, which is then deposited into those alternative accounts for what use? One of the categories is for workman's comp, but there is another check being sent in that same batch directly to the state to cover the workman's comp. Why two checks for the same thing? Journal entries being made to move money from here to there without any support, being documents to show why it's being done. One such journal entry moved $9.5K from the boiler to the HVAC levy account to zero budget levy account and a general account, which wasn't used at all for the levy purpose it was budgeted for. I just read that. You're interrupting my time. Applying invoices to zero budget accounts, which has been common practice with the previous business managers. As you can see by looking over these reports,
Sorry, Kathy, it's time.
I brought with me tonight,
Sorry.
I can prove all that I said.
Next up is Desi Benedict.
I am begging you to not bring the junior high up to the high school. I understand that you have a fiscal responsibility to this district, but I have a responsibility to my children to keep them safe and out of harm's way, and I don't want my daughter going into the high school with some kids who can be 19 years of age. Now I know that she will be joining the high school next year, but that is a whole year away. Although it may not seem like much to some, that is 1 year of development and innocence that is needed. Please, as multiple people have asked at Monday's meeting, slow down. Let's devise a plan for if or when the boiler breaks. Some people are concerned about financial responsibility, which I'm not saying that I disagree with you on that. However, when you are penny pinching over the safety of my daughter and son, I cannot help but to feel you are not putting our children first. I do not disagree with the fact that all taxpayers should have a say or at least know where your money is going. That is why we vote on levies. You are getting your forensic audit, which I also stated at the last meeting that I was for. It is extremely hypocritical of you to be concerned about children pornography, gender ideology, sexual misconduct, etc. in our schools, but that you are okay with placing 11-year-olds in the same building as 18 or 19-year-olds. You can say that you will keep them separated, but I graduated from this high school and there are plenty of ways around your separation. I can guarantee you that. Please, slow down. Think about the safety of our children, because first and foremost, that should be your #1 priority.
Thank you. Next up is Callie. I'm sorry, she heard.
All right, I'm Callie Schmaltz for the record. I'm a wife, I'm a mother. I'm a graduate of this school, a Spartan alumni. This makes me very emotional, so excuse me. I'm also a Christian, a Republican, and a member of the NRA. However, I do not feel that that is important in this world that we're living in this city, in this school district. That should not matter. Politics do not belong in our school. In regards to the agenda items, the discussion of the junior high was made very clear at the Superintendent Durst's 3Cs meeting the other night, which we appreciate you guys being there and listening and holding that. The community discussed the junior high, and it was clear what the majority of the community thinks is best. Your responsibility as the board is to respect what the majority of this community thinks is best for our children. The junior high might be a potential disaster, but what if it's not? We don't know until we go in and evaluate the situation and get the estimates. The majority of the community feels it would make more sense to spend the money on a current building. It doesn't make sense to spend extra money on leasing portables. Why not take care of what we have? Why not take care of our history? Why not be proud that we have a beautiful, beautiful historical building in the center of our town and our public school children get to attend there? Why not be proud of that? I'm concerned that a few board members and our superintendent have already made up their minds about closing this junior high school. And in turn, I am scared that they have also already secretly decided to sell or lease this facility. Listen to the majority, listen to your community, listen to your business owners. A majority of us are on the same page. Keep the junior high school. Keep our children in the junior high school. Keep our public schools open. Keep our kids playing sports and band. If you want to bring a charter school into Priest River, then great, do so. But do it off of our public land. There is nothing wrong with private schools, public schools.
Thank you. Next up is Doug Patterson.
Doug Patterson for the record. First, I would like to agree that your responsibility is safety of the children and your staff. That's probably the primary thing that needs consideration in your doings. Given that there are staff-recognized dangers from the boiler at the junior high school, there is a likelihood that there's potential for legal action in liability if action isn't taken in a timely fashion. And because the staff has told you there is a problem there. And boilers can go out with a wet whisper, or they can go out with a big boom. And that big boom possibility is a definite danger to your children and the staff. And so if you, those that don't want you to take action, they really should volunteer to share that liability. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to close public comment?
Make a motion to close public comment.
I have a first from Chair Hall. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second from Trustee Barton. Public comments is now closed.
Do you want to vote?
Can I have a vote, please, on closing?
Just say all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comments is closed.
Would you like me to make a motion to bring? Would that help?
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to bring the Curriculum Adoption Committee final appointment to the table.
I'll second that.
We have a first from Trustee Hall and a second from Trustee Barton. Trustee Barton, would you like to talk about that?
We can, yes. So trustee, Vice Chair Brown and I also met today, decided on the committee. We chose 6 people from the school district, employees, administration, and we also chose 4 community members and 4 parents, 1 from each of the zones and 1 parent to represent each one of the schools. So we feel that it is a definite balance.
It's a good
Yes,
balance.
it is very balanced. So we did notify those members today that we would like to have on the committee. We've also found that Peggy Lutzenheiser will be the chair. Any additional comments?
You need to read them into the record.
Can we list the people who they are for the record, please?
Yes.
Because I think we have to approve it, so we need
Let
to
me
sort of
just
know
list
who
you.
they are.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, we have, and I'm probably not going to say some of these last names correctly, but we have June Gregory, or Gregoro, Brooke Melbourne, Annie McMahon, Debbie Anderson, Lynn Parker,
Can you, I think people are having trouble hearing you.
let me just say that a little louder. Okay, June Gregor, Brooke Melbourne, Annie McMahon, Debbie Anderson, Lynn Parker, Rodrigo Silveira.
Did we say that right?
I'm not sure.
What's the last name again?
Silvera, what is it? Silvera? Silvera. I have the correct spelling if you'd like it. Dell Hungerford, Rhea Warren,
You said Rhea
Warren,
Warren.
William Neal Jenks, and of course, then we have Susan and I seem to be missing some. Who else was on our list? I feel like, Daisy Brennan. Sostrom. Sorry. Hold on a second, let me look and see.
Right?
I thought I had the complete list, I apologize.
Looks like 14 plus Peggy. So 6.
And, so that's right, 14. That's correct. So that rounds together all of our committee. And we will meet as soon as Peggy Lutzenheiser.
And Mr. Durst, would you give us a little context to what you're going to be doing with this?
Certainly, Chair Brown and trustees, and for those in the public, just so they know, yesterday Peggy accepted the curriculum director position, and as part of that responsibility, she's to chair all of our curriculum adoption committee meetings and to kind of chart a course for where those are going to go going forward, to have a systematic schedule of review of all of our curriculum over the course of the next year or so, however long it takes to kind of go through all that stuff to make sure that we have, as things become up for renewal or for replacement, that we have a place for that to happen. And so she's going to do that, and then it's appropriate for her as the curriculum director to be the person who's staffing that role on behalf of the district, to be able to provide a report to myself and then to the board for final conclusion. So,
Thank you, Mr. Durst. Can I get a vote from the board on this?
you need a motion.
Oh, excuse me, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the curriculum committee as Trustee Barton identified them.
I have a first from Trustee Hall and a second from Trustee Reinbold. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have a new curriculum committee. Can I get a motion to
I'll make a motion to bring 2023-2024 budget authority for this SRO to the table. School resource officer.
Okay.
Sorry.
Mr. Durst, would you go ahead and give us some information, please?
Sure, so as
Need
you're all,
Need a second on that.
Okay.
one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah. And trustee Reinbold, second. Discussion?
Madam Chairman and members of the board, so last week, the board approved a final approval of our budget that we submitted to the state. While we expect a revision of that budget, and we will definitely be revising that budget once we have some more clarity around revenues and different things. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that we do, just in light of the city's budgeting process, is to provide budgetary authority for the SRO, and they've asked us to be able to have that in minutes so they can refer back to it for their own purposes. And so to the extent that the board feels that it's appropriate to have an SRO here at the high school, this budgeting authority would allow me to sign the contract with us and the city to be able to provide that funding.
Okay, and clarification for that, that is for the high school, and he also is junior.
But yes, correct, right.
All the
schools, but
down.
to have an office here and then to be able to, correct.
I'll make a motion to approve that. That was supposed to be, that was the intent in the budget, was to include that SRO and approve that contract.
And I'll second that.
I have a first from trustee Hall and a second from trustee Barton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Can I get a motion to accept or discuss the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to, I guess, approve the consent agenda, but have some questions.
I'll second
I have a first from trustee Hall and a second from trustee Reinbold.
Okay, I do have some clarifications I would like to know. I guess I didn't bring this up before, but I see Ryan Carruthers, who's the operations director, but as we understand, that operations director is supposed to be both facilities and transportation, correct?
Correct.
So I'm starting to see a very long list for him for head athletic director and head soccer coach, and we've seen burnout of people before, so I'm a little concerned that he is taking on these other additions. And then that's my first kind of question, and then I do have a question regarding the other hirees. Are there any alternative authorizations? And then I believe a little bit more clarification of Courtney McKnight and her certification because of concerns about the SPED money.
Yeah. So, Madam Chairman, if I may address Trustee Hall's questions.
Yes, please.
So Ryan's position as operations director, as you already correctly identified, Trustee Hall, is a combination of the operations director position is a combination between facilities and transportation. It was decided for efficiency standpoint to split the position with the high school athletic director and split the stipend in half and give half the responsibility to one employee and the other half to another, so as to make that so it wasn't quite as an arduous position and it wasn't so time consuming. In that way, and the district's not paying anything extra for that. It's just allowing two people to do it. From the philosophy of many hands make light work, and allowing us to be able to leverage that. And as far as the head coach position is concerned, you know, the soccer season's pretty short, and it's I trust that he's coming out of a private sector experience where he's used to working a lot of hours, and so in the near term he'll be doing that, but I think he'll be able to manage it well, and he's aware of the time constraints that are going to be related to that in the near term at least. But given that we have Mr. Zepeda taking on the high school part of that, and then we've got Angie Goins is doing the junior high component of the athletic position, that'll allow them to be able to carry some of the load and then have him be able to provide some expertise as well, because given his background, we thought it'd be useful to take advantage of his experience.
I guess my only comment would be is that priority needs to be the operations director.
Yes, and I think he understands that.
And then the other question was regarding who has alternative authorization of any of these, and then regards to Courtney McKnight and the SPED her Idaho credentials or overall credentials.
So at this point, Madam Chairman and Trustee Hall and others, members of the board, there are no alternate routes that I'm aware of at this point. When I spoke to Mrs. Parker this morning, she says she only have one. Oh, maybe, no, correction. Jordan Munar is on this list, and in that Jordan does have an alternate route, but Mrs. Parker is quite comfortable with Jordan's ability to complete those jobs, so we'll get in the alternate route for Jordan. And I don't know if Jordan's a male or a female, so I don't want to use the, is a guy? Okay, I wasn't sure, because nowadays that can be either way, and yeah. So anyway, so that's that, and then as far as Dr. McKnight's concerned, she does have all we had them before we went through, we made sure that everybody that was a finalist in that process was capable of receiving a full SPED director, SPED certificate from the state of Idaho. And so we double checked that process before we continue with any of the applicants. And she's got a PhD in special ed, and she's been working in that role before us. And based off my conversations with the state, she shouldn't have any problems whatsoever transferring her current certificate from Texas up to Idaho. And just to kind of address the question, if you don't, Trustee Bart, if you, just one sec, I would also add that there were some questions from the board about how she's going to be serving in that capacity. I thought that might be where you were going. So we tried to hire somebody local here. We waited for a month, and we didn't have any applicants at all. And given the legal responsibility that we have to be able to have somebody who's highly qualified in that role, we then expanded it to become a hybrid remote position. So Dr. McKnight will be on campus at least once per quarter for a week. She will also commit if there's any emergencies. She'll be on the next plane here. She will be able to, we've let her know that in the first semester she'll be here a couple times to provide support. And really that was the best we could do to be able to find somebody who was highly qualified, because I could not start the school year without that position being filled. And so that was the approach that we had to take to be able to make sure that we had somebody who could provide the services and provide the support to our staff.
Any other questions?
I guess you'll be also monitoring how this works in terms of hybrid and how this works into supporting our local staff.
Yeah, and that's part of the key is we were kind of backed into a corner. We're not the only part of the state who's struggling with this issue, and so we tried to be creative, and that's one of the reasons that we require the person to be able to be here quickly and make sure that we would be able to fly them as fast as possible if there was an emergency.
And that's not going to jeopardize our federal
Correct.
funding in any way?
Correct. We've looked into that too.
We've
Yes.
Superintendent Durst, I'd like to review that contract that you have with her.
Sure.
Thank you.
You bet.
And I think the only other statement is that there are resignations, and I do want to acknowledge those people who have been working in this district and thank them for their services.
Move on to new business.
Do you want a motion to approve the consent agenda? I'll make a motion to approve I made it, probably need a vote.
Yeah.
I
seconded. Okay. We have a first from Trustee Hall and a second from Trustee Reinbold. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we hear you, Keith?
Yes, aye.
Moving on to new business, can I get a motion to,
I'll make a motion to bring policy change 5900 first aid training to the table.
Mr. Durst, did you want to talk
You need a
about?
second, sir. You need a second.
Oh, can I have, we have a first from Trustee Hall and a second from Trustee Reinbold.
Madam Chair and Board, just for reference on the background behind this issue, it has come to my attention that the current board policy 5900, which is in your packet, precludes the use of an online training course for first aid CPR. And while I agree that in-person training is preferred, the reality is the district regularly is not able to find trainers in a timely manner to fulfill that role. Now, I did reach out to some folks. I actually finally heard from somebody last night that could do that. But it was also brought to my attention from our junior high school AD and also Mr. George that they've been doing it this way anyway for many years, that they just use an online training program. And that is what they're accustomed to, and they were surprised when I told them that was not actually permitted by the board. And so to the extent that we can align board policy with current practice, it may behoove us to do that, especially considering the fact that those online training programs, especially if we use like an American Red Cross program, is half or more or less the cost than having to bring somebody into the district and provide that training each time that we need it. So to the extent the board is willing to approve a one-word strike through, that would be putting us in alignment with our current practice already.
So, question, I'm assuming since we've been doing it for a while, that IHSAA is compliant with whatever they are requiring?
Madam Chairman, Trustee Hall, I called their office earlier this week to ask that very question. They said, we don't care how you do it, it's up to your board.
Okay. All right, then the other thing about this is I would do what we've done before, because you need this in a timely manner, is I would say that this is we're making, I don't know if this is the first read under the emergency we're making an emergency approval according to policy 1300, doing an emergency read, and we'll have to bring it back for a second read.
Madam Chairman, Trustee Hall, that was the intention of bringing it here so we could bring it back to the regular meeting next week.
So I would make a motion to approve the policy change and make it according to policy 1300, and that we'll have to bring it back for a second read, but we'll still go through the first and second read.
Okay.
I'll second that.
They have a first from Trustee Hall and a second from Trustee Barton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, this motion passes. All righty. Can I get a motion to bring to the table for discussion the updating of financial institution signatures?
I'll make a motion to bring to the table the updating financial institute signatures.
I have a first from Trustee Barton. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Trustee Hall. Kendra, would you please walk us through this?
For the record, Kendra Selesky. In my preparation, preparing documentation for the audit, it has been brought to my attention as of Monday that we do not have a current signer or a person of authority on our Wells Fargo accounts. So at this time, I'm requesting the board to vote to add a person of authority / a signer onto the Wells Fargo accounts so that we can conduct business. For this audit, they are requesting clean, readable statements that have no marks on them, and so to do that, I need to have statements sent directly from the bank. Also, they prefer that because of just they're nice and clean. That also saves us money as a district because they're able to upload those directly to their systems and take off the information they need to do the audit. So that saves us money in that process also.
And just for clarification, if I could, just for the board, Kendra may be unaware. So this first action item that you just brought to the table is related to adding Kendra as a signatory on our Umpqua account. As the payroll person for the district, she needs to be able to do that. So that's what this one is. She's addressing numbers 7E and 7F, or what she's speaking to right now.
So just clarification on this particular one, updating financial institution signatories, who, it would just be Kendra, or is there anyone else?
Well, I am on it, and so is the chair.
Okay.
But just given Kendra's role as a payroll clerk, it would be helpful to have, so she can communicate with the bank and be able to do that. And they require us to have meeting minutes where that's approved. So that's why we're doing it this way and really being deliberate and explicit.
So you would like to approve her as the extra, okay.
Yes.
So I will make a motion to add Kendra Selesky to the Umpqua bank as a signatory. Is that correct? Is what we're looking at.
And I will second that.
I have a first from trustee Hall and a second from trustee Barton. Can I take a vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Can we get a motion for consideration of resolution for entry into cooperative service agreement?
I'll make a motion to bring to the table the consideration of resolution for entry into cooperative service agreement.
I'll second that.
I have a first from trustee Hall and a second from trustee Brown.
Barton.
Sorry. Barton? Mr. Durst, would you like to take us through this?
Sure, I'm going to pinch hit on this next two for Terry Johnson from Food Services. So we have a couple of cooperative service agreements that the district enters into with other districts to procure food and milk, and those just are bulk purchasing and things like that, so we can all work together to keep our costs down. This is the first of the two of them. You'll see on the resolution, the third paragraph just says the North Idaho Region 1 Co-op for Food Services is formed, and that we agree to be a part of that so that we can participate in that program, which all the other surrounding districts do. This is more of a perfunctory type of resolution, but it's something that we have to have done, officially documented so that we can participate.
And we've done it in the past. The only thing I would hate to say at every request is that resolution be spelled correctly at the top of the page.
That's fair.
And the date be changed.
And the date, there was a date change, so I would maybe correct, with those corrections would be helpful.
And those would be considered Scribner errors, so we can address those just in.
I'll make a motion to approve this cooperative service agreement. It's not, we've done this in the past.
I'll second that.
I have a first from trustee Hall and a second from trustee Barton. Can I have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Mr. Durst, if you can
You gotta
explain.
bring this to the table first.
Pardon?
Wait,
Oh,
take the table first.
I need to get a motion to consideration of resolution for the entry into the milk cooperative agreement.
I'll make a motion to enter in consideration of the resolution for the entry into milk cooperative agreement.
I have a first from trustee Barton. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from trustee Hall. Mr. Durst, can you explain this to us?
Sure, this is similar to just the one prior, just this happens to be with milk. Coeur d'Alene School District is the fiscal agent for this cooperative, and they've just asked that all of the participating school districts pass a similar resolution that, you know, clarifies that we're voluntarily participating in this and that we'll be doing that for the next school year.
Any questions?
So I'll make a motion to approve our entry into the milk cooperative agreement.
I have a first from trustee Hall. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from trustee Reinbold. All those in agreement, say aye.
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 Aye, it passes. Can I get a motion for the naming of the new key executor with control of business?
I'll make a motion to bring to the table the naming the new key executor with control of business.
I have a first from trustee Hall. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second from trustee Barton. And Kendra?
So with finding that out on Monday, I contacted the bank, find out what we needed to do. Keith went up to Wells Fargo and took in documentation through our minutes and agendas showing him as a current signer on our accounts. Basically, you have to get into the bank to be able to talk to anybody. So at that point, they sent their paperwork down to legal. Legal comes back and tells us because the accounts were closed, they have to build us basically a new profile and update it to today's codes for banking inside of Wells Fargo The prior accounts were opened so far ago that they didn't have to have some of the documentation they do today. So with that, we have to appoint somebody to be a key executor, and that's a executive. That's a word that Wells Fargo uses. Basically, it is a person who has authority to manage the financial accounts at that institution. So I would ask that we appoint Mr. Durst to do that, and then that way, that gets us part of it. Because we have to have a person of authority to be able to come in and act as on behalf of our business to request statements or do anything else. Part 2 on that would be that he can appoint 2 of us inside of the office, because the only thing we have with them at this time is the credit cards, so that we can manage those accounts. If we have any questions on charges or fraud, at this point, we do not have anybody in the district that can legally manage any of that.
So who would be the 2 people?
I would request that it's the 2 people in finance. It would be myself and Mrs. Riley.
It's Melinda, right?
Melissa.
Melissa. And is there, and so that, what we're appointing, this would be for Wells Fargo versus the other?
Correct.
This would be for Wells Fargo for these positions. And there's no, does this have to be renewed every year? Or is there any kind of renewal?
No, the
part
only
of it?
time that you would want to go in to renew it is if we had a changing of somebody who would be considered our, any of the staffing or our key executive. So it would be just like we would do any other financial institution. If we have changes, this would be added to the things that need to be changed.
So like in January, when we change board chairs and things of that nature?
Yes, we would want to make sure that this is on our minutes and our agenda at that time to make the changes there.
So right now, Mr. Durst is on, do we need to make 3 people, do we need to appoint 3 people?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I make a motion for naming the following 3 people as, I guess, key executors with control of business at Wells Fargo. Brandon Durst, Kendra Selesky, and Melissa Riley.
And I'll second that.
I have a first and a second from Trustee Hall and from Trustee Barton. Can we have a vote? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Can I get a motion to have consideration for approval of a Secretary of State filing?
I'll make a motion to bring to the table the approval for Secretary of State filing.
I have a first from Trustee Barton. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Trustee Hall.
So again, this pertains to Wells Fargo. So because we're building a brand new profile with them, because of the accounts, the checking accounts being closed in the past, they have to build us a brand new profile, bring it up to today's standards. So at that time, we have to prove we are a business who we say we are. So by doing that, we file with the state of Idaho on their Secretary of website. At that's where we would list our key executives, people in control of the business, and that would be something that would be changed also at the same time any other financial institutions would be changed. But this just proves to the bank we are who we say we are so that we can go on with business.
So clarification on this filing, is it listed the trustees as well as the superintendent as, I mean, for a nonprofit, you have to do trustees, so I'm just
Yep.
wondering if it's the same. You're doing trustees, or, and who else are you including on it?
It would be, at this point, all the trustees, and then we would want to make sure that we have our, because the bank is going to be looking at that also for that verbiage, that's our key executor too for that, or executive.
So 6 people.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to approve the Secretary of State filing as needed.
Thank you.
I have a first from Trustee Hall. Can I get a second?
Second it.
I have a second from trustee Reinbold. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Can I get a motion for consideration of approval of the bus routes?
I'll make a motion for consideration approval of the bus routes.
I'll second that.
I have a first from trustee Hall and a second from trustee Reinbold.
I have a bit of a question on this one.
Ms. Hinshaw can address
Oh,
that.
great, okay, because I'm missing a map. I'm missing the maps, which are crazy, but there are no maps there.
Yes, we don't have the maps available. Not tonight. Sorry about that. I am Charity Henshaw. For the record, Transportation Department. And we are presenting route area coverage and safety busing and turnarounds for the board to considerations and approvals. Do we have any questions?
All bus routes going to be open this year, run?
Yes. The
And
ones
then-
that were open last year will be open this year. We have 12.
And then at a future, at the regular meeting for August, you'll present to us the regular bus safety. We usually get a bus, what is it? Conduct on the buses. Or is that going to come before us in August? We usually, if you look at our former, I think last August meeting, there's actually also presented the disciplinary actions when people are riding the bus.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And that will come, and will you be putting together the maps will be able to see the maps at a future meeting? You just
Yes.
need this right now, is what I'm
Yes.
understanding. Okay.
I just want to make sure I understand. So then the handbook will be next week at our
Next
August meeting? Okay, thank you.
Or it's actually the 16th, don't rush us.
Yes, sorry.
I think, wait a minute, is next week the 16th?
Yes,
Oh,
it is.
shoot.
It is the
Sorry.
16th.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I was
That's
trying
all
to-
right. Time's been
I'm
flying
trying to get
too.
rid of at least one, 3 meetings a week, so, all right, sorry, my mistake. Let's rush one more.
I do have a question. What is the longest bus route we have?
The longest one that we have is, I want to say an hour and 10 minutes, about 60 minutes.
Aren't the ones down to Cocolala long and the lake are long too, right? For the
Yes.
Longer, for the students coming, the junior high, high school kids is longer from that way, and then Cocolala is the other.
Yes.
Not Cocolala, but the south, well, no, the southeast corner of our district, isn't that a pretty long one down in the Bay Area and south of there? That's why I take it down to Cocolala, because it's almost Cocolala.
It's about 60 minutes.
That one is too.
Yes, yeah, that one's Kim, so she's about 60 minutes.
Yeah, that's way down there. All right.
Do we
I will
have
make a
any-
motion to approve the bus routes as presented.
I'll second that.
I have a first from trustee Hall and a second from trustee Barton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. It's extensive work.
And I'll make a
Okay.
motion to bring to the table the Priest River Junior High discussion. No action to be taken.
I'll second that.
I have a first from trustee Hall and a second from trustee Barton.
I did do some research after last Monday's meeting, and I thank Mr. Durst and the public who attended just to listen. I think sometimes we were going in circles a little bit, but I appreciate all the comments and I take them to heart. One thing I want to point out to people, I did go digging. I have it in my own file, but I should see if I'm pretty sure it's on the board book. July 3rd, 2019, I will bring your attention to a work session that was held, and it was dealing with the full facilities improvements. And in that, it's extensive, it's 72 pages, but in one of the things that is broken down, there is a ROM cost that they broke down, and it is, I was thinking, actually, my mistake, I was thinking that the junior high was 16 million plus. It actually is all the projects that they looked at in 2019. And when I looked at the junior high, I just want to bring this to your attention. Some of the things on there had to do with door upgrades. I think we've done it. We've done LED lighting upgrades. We have done, believe intercom systems upgrades. So even there are some things in the elementary school, the high school, Idaho Hill and Priest Lake. Priest Lake, no, I don't think we've done the roofing upgrades. Idaho Hill, I don't think we've done the roofing upgrade. But at Priest River Elementary, I believe we may have done some HVAC systems upgrade. So it is, and it's itemized. So so that's the big picture, and it's there for people to look at. It's broken down. There's also on there some energy savings summary and some of those total annual savings based on the energy performances. I think we should take those into consideration. Also, I want to let people know, I did reach out to Ken Eldor the other day and had a conversation with him, because I was going to say, I know he was very concerned about the boiler last year. He spent a lot of time there, and I said, what's the skinny on the boiler? And he said that he feels that it will be good for this year, but what he's suggesting is that the annual maintenance, the recharge of all the systems, not just the boiler at the junior high, be done. And then he feels that there's probably going to be needing some maintenance along the way, but because of the extensive maintenance or repair that was done last year, we bought a little time. And so saying that and looking at all of this, I'm sort of also putting forth, because of my background is as a board trustee, if it's possible, I'd be willing to help on a campaign or capital campaign drive to help figure out how to pay for some of these things. And I know that there's big grants out there, but the way I've done big development projects before is you do a basket of funding. You look at grants, you look at we look at a facilities levy, we look at this list, prioritize this list and see what we can actually do. I mean, one of the things that jumped out was, there's the historical, is the auditorium, an upgrade of the auditorium. Maybe that's a capital campaign. Maybe we get behind. But I think it needs to possibly be, and I know it's not an action item, but we had approved Ken to start a advisory committee for the junior high. And so that could go forth, but maybe there's also simultaneously a capital campaign that starts thinking about what might be feasible. I mean, we don't want to do anything until we sort of put the pieces together, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. Listening to the community and having listened to them over the years, I think people want to keep the junior high. But we can't kick the can down the road anymore. And we have to come up with a plan and a strategic plan, and maybe it's, again, my favorite word, in phases, to figure out what's doable and triage it. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Can we maybe consider forming a committee that consisted of, the current facilities committee, which I'm on that, and so is Keith, but also I'd like to have a couple community members from each zone, so that every zone is equally represented, and no zone has more representation than the other, just so that it's fair. And we get people from all over the district talking about it, that know about it, because I've been through the facilities, I know most of that you were reading, but the people out here don't, and we talk about stuff.
Talking to your mic.
Oh. I
Sorry.
think that's stupid.
I know. It's this is a
Anyway,
great
that's all
topic.
I got to
He's
say.
doing, yeah. Troy just stated that he wanted to have a committee that represented each zone, each school,
on his committee so that it's a well-balanced
And
committee.
what I would add to that is try to get experts, but not only the operations director. That's why I looked at that list and went, that's a long list for the operations. But on the flip side, there may be the facility side, but we also need to look at the capital campaign side and say, okay, what grants are available, what types of funding?
Well, that's why I was thinking that they would kind of work together a little bit.
Right, but we can't have we can't all three be, or all whatever, we have to.
We can do whatever we want.
We would have
So
to have
more
a
than
board
one
meeting
committee.
to do it, which is true. We
Right,
could do it
right.
whatever we want.
We could have committee meetings and then come together on a board.
Yeah, and that's what I would look at, maybe, not, because we can't make any decisions tonight, but looking at potentially doing the facilities, but maybe looking at, do we set up sort of a capital campaign to look seriously at our options, which means grants, bonds, facilities levies, et cetera. What are our options? I don't think it works for historic tax credits. That's equity financing, but I don't think we'll fall for it. But there is, one of the big ones is, and I've come across it with work, and I know that it was identified. We might want to act really quickly on some of this. Because, I mean, not quickly, but we might want to start putting stuff together, because there is some money out there that we might want to consider.
But if it has to do with historical, do we come into, because we were part of that historical thing, we removed it because that limited us so much on what we could do. Like our windows had to be. Okay, sorry, I just,
You're passionate about it.
I'm just gonna shut up.
No.
When we were part of that historical thing before, it limits what we can do, because like your windows have to, they have to be identical. I mean, they can be upgraded, but the appearance has to be identical to what's in there. And it considerably ran up the cost of some of the repairs that we needed to do. So, I don't know. That doesn't mean we don't qualify for some, I'm just bringing up that point.
Can we summarize that for the audience, Troy? So he's saying that because it's a historical society, we have to make sure that everything matches, the windows match, and which drastically ran up the price for budget. And so we need to take that into consideration.
And actually, I got a little bit of information on update of that. There's a gentleman named Dan Everhart down in Boise, and we found out that the school was actually put on the National Registry in 1995. However, it's not part of SHPO, and so per this gentleman, not only can we get grants, and he's available to talk to any of us. He said, just leave a message, he'll call you back in 48 hours, but that we're not limited to, because we have the single pane metal windows with crank, we don't have to replace them with that. We can actually put in energy efficient dual pane windows, which it's significantly going to cut down on our electricity costs and heating costs, but that it's just a better safety piece all the way around for the students, because that single pane glass, if it breaks, that's not good. So he was just a wealth of knowledge, and he said he's available anytime if we end up putting these committees together.
And the thing is that we addressed how to deal with those windows. That was part. I mean, I think when you look at this facility thing, and the only thing I would look at is, I know it may seem like a big ticket item, but it seems like it could get the community wrapped around it. It could be exciting for the community, but I would look at it. I wouldn't nickel and dime what's needed, because there's energy efficiency and we got energy performances. And granted, the costs are going to go up. And the other thing, I know people don't want to think about this, what was not included in that number is that we're not going to be able to do the renovations overnight, and we will have to seriously look at the time frame and where are the 7th and 8th graders? Where does the junior high go during if we really get to where we're hoping to go, where are those students comfortable? So we have a bit of a longer discussion that we can have, but we're going to have, if we go for it, we're going to have to also think about that piece.
Oh, absolutely, because I think everyone would agree that we can't have students in the school when it's actually being renovated for a multitude of issues. I mean, it's got to be properly abated, and there's things that are going to have to take place. But we do have time, hopefully, to figure out a good plan on how to keep those kids in school, but in a safe location.
And I think we all should definitely look into a levy, a facilities levy, in addition to a bond, and that will cover most of our financial burden of the budget that's going to be coming down. So,
I mean, I think, you know, Ken did a good job of clipping off on some of those costs, so, which is really great. I mean, hate to say it, I hadn't revisited that, but some of those things have been on the list, and I think he was going to try to do a couple of more with the ESSER money this year.
I think there was stuff from levy money that was already, I think there was stuff from some of that levy money that was already spoken for.
earmarked for it.
Yeah.
So we should definitely look into that. So, but I think that, per my zone at least, I feel like we should maybe just put this aside for the moment, relook at it maybe in a month, and look into facilities levy or a bond, and then readdress the movement or merge maybe in the spring, so that we can incorporate the summer, so that if we do have to move the junior high up to the high school, that it's planned and it is approved by the community.
And my feeling is this is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take probably 1.5 to 2 years to get us to where we. Oh, do we have a Aladdin's lamp somewhere? I would love it. Who's putting money into the lottery? If we won that,
Somebody needs to win the
I know. But no, seriously, I think we need to come up with a time frame, what it would look like, what we could chip off. And then the question is, I know, Mr. Durst, that you had said that, you know, we're concerned about how much money we could get for the facilities levy of what, you know, because that's 55%. But we have, because of the lake lease lots, we have one of the highest taxable value of properties. And so we may surprise ourselves about what our bottom line is for facilities levy. So it'd be interesting to see. Because if we didn't have to do a bond, we might, you know, it'd be nice to use bond as the last resort if we had to.
Madam Chair, if I might just really briefly, I appreciate that conversation. I appreciate the direction from the board. And I just want to make sure that I state publicly how much I appreciate everyone's engagement on Monday night. And to be clear that we were here to listen, and we heard you, and we're acting accordingly. And that was the intent of that conversation, was to solicit feedback, and we did so in a good faith manner, and wanted to be responsive to what our community was looking for, but also to recognize that, as Trustee Hall said, we can't keep kicking the can down the road. We need to have a solution made. We need to start bringing this together, so as a community we can get around it, get behind an idea and get something done for the benefit of our students, and not just the current students that we have now, but the students that are going to come afterwards. So I appreciate everyone's participation, and I appreciate the leadership of the board as well.
Any other comments on this?
Not on this.
Okay.
Madam Chair, since there's no more comments on this, can I address the board? Okay. So previously, I would like to make an amendment to the old business action item, Curriculum Adoption Committee final appointment. We failed to include Lindsay, and I don't have her last name. Lindsay, that's the paper. I knew that we were missing one, so I'd like to make that amendment and to go on record that Lindsay is part of this group, and we will contact her.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Durst, I really want to thank you for Monday.
You have to have a motion. We should put a motion, get that a second and vote on it. Sorry.
Please remember, I'm brand new at this. I need a motion, please, to add Lindsay to our list for the curriculum committee.
I'll make a motion to approve. Do we know her last name?
I don't know her last name. I don't have
Does
it written down.
anybody? Doss?
Sauce.
Sauce. Oh, S-O-U-Z. I'll make a motion to, S-A-S-S, okay. I will make a motion to include Lindsay Sauce to the curriculum committee. Did I still do it wrong? Yes.
I have a first. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a first and a second. Can we have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. You're added, Lindsay. You didn't get out of it. Mr. Durst, I really want to thank you for Monday because that was a very long meeting. And I know that it's a passionate thing for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. And I wish we could have talked to each other a little bit better that night, but I think that hopefully with the blue questionnaires that we put out so that we could get some good feedback, then it's something that the board can look at and take that into consideration moving forward. If you haven't already brought them forward, we'll collect them when you leave, it's fine. But we wanted to thank you for participating in that as well. And there was a gentleman there on Monday night that asked a question, and in all honesty, I think it was the only one I heard initially that was uninterrupted. And I just wanted to let that gentleman know, I don't know if he's here or not, but he had asked a question about were there funds put aside for these boiler repairs, you know, earlier on in the history of the school, so to speak. And I've been looking into it. A lot of people have talked about it tonight, whether up at the podium or here, because Margaret had an awful lot of information, and I've been trying to pull that report because I remember talking with Ken about it. Just to answer your question, sir, whether you're here or you're listening over the internet, yes, there were monies earmarked over time for the boilers. If all of those funds came in and were utilized or not, at this point, I honestly can't answer that question, but there definitely has been money over the years set aside for the boiler repair and or replacement of. So I personally want to thank you all for being kind to me on my first time doing this. And I think that this is a good way for us to do business back here where we can talk. I found it to be beneficial tonight. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.